Hi guys, so a lady called Lorna called into the Eddie Marr show and made a bit of a fool of herself trying to defend Liz Truss, who was recently exposed for calling British workers lazy and in need of a bit of graft. Truss also compared employees in the UK to those in China and other countries around the world in a very negative light. Lorna attacked people on benefits here. But let's get to the caller who was probably getting her information about people on universal credit from the Daily Express.
I agree with Liz Truss, and the reason why I agree with her, in order to enhance productivity, people need to work, because you have the job. Like yesterday, for example, I heard on the news wherein the fruits, the vegetarians, they're rotten. They're rotten because no one is there to pick them. You have jobs in hospitality, the area, and no one to fill them. And yet people are saying that they cannot get jobs. The reason why I agree with her is that sometimes we tend to be too soft.
And there we have, okay, don't worry, she's going to speak a little bit more in a moment. We're too soft. Too soft on who? Because, look, a vast majority of people on universal credit are actually working. So this argument that, well, there's so many people on benefits and they're doing nothing. Look, there are people who can't work because they have a disability or an illness or they have a particular problem. There are people who want to work. They can't find a job in their area. They can't commute because it's too far away and it's too expensive. The pay is not enough to warrant commuting. And we've talked about this before. And there are people who are already working who are on universal credit. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to get another job? Look, once again, these people, where do they get their information from? Probably from the Express or the Daily Mail.
In saying the truth. And this is why we have these people that think that I'm not going to work. I'm going to go on the benefit system because the benefit system is there.
I'm not going to work and going to go on the benefit system. Do you understand that if you are on the benefit system, you're obliged to look for work. And if you're given a job, you're supposed to do it. If you don't do the job, your benefits are cut. You know, I know that people like to put out these examples of, you know, a single mother with 25 children and holidays 3 times a year. But there's a reason why those people appear in tabloid newspapers, why they're sensational, because they're the exception. Do some people game the system? Yes. But that's not an argument for suspending the entire system. And that's what the Tories have been using. And it's not just the Tories, it's also right-wing governments around the world. When they use extreme examples to set a standard. They want to take away support for everyone because of a few bad eggs.
Do you think that's what's happening? Or, I mean, you mentioned fruit pickers, for example. Do you not think the Brexit policy that Liz Truss is so fond of now has contributed to that? And if you make thousands of workers feel unwelcome and then they withdraw from the workforce, everyone else is busy working too. I mean, we're close to full employment, aren't we?
So why should you have people here on benefits and get people from abroad to come and work?
For a number of reasons. She tried to avoid the question somewhat, but her response is, well, why are we bringing people in from abroad if we have people on benefits? As I said before, and I said it on a number of occasions, many times the jobs that are available, there aren't the skills in the community. So there's a lack of trained butchers, for example, in the UK. And it takes years to train up as a butcher. So these are not people you can just pick, you know, go to in your local area, you can find a trained butcher. They have to be trained. That's why it's been easier to bring people in from abroad, because you put up on your website, I need a trained butcher. I'm going to pay you X amount of money. This is the contract. And someone from abroad can contact you and say, I'd like to move to the UK to do this job. You know, from Eastern Europe or from Southern Europe or wherever. That's what's happened. That's what has happened before. But since Brexit, since the ending of freedom of movement, and since the introduction of these new draconian measures to keep refugees out and asylum seekers out and immigrants out, it's more and more difficult to actually hire people, to bring them in from abroad, trained people. And of course, as the other problems I said as well, the jobs that are available are not always in the area where the unemployment is.
When they're here taking the free money and they're healthy enough to do the work.
The free money and their health. Once again, where do you think this person gets their information from? Right-wing media. The free money, and they're able to do the work. Look, there are people who do not want to work, and they will try and game the system, but they are the minority. Okay? Now, if you want to complain about those people, I would hope you'd also be complaining about politicians who abuse the system. Corporations, big businesses that abuse the system, that don't pay tax, or find ways around employment laws or environmental laws. I would assume that this Lorna person will be very upset about that, but she's not calling in to complain about that. She's calling in to complain about people who are not doing jobs that they're not skilled to do, or are skilled to do, but they're not in their area. And it's not feasible for them to transfer to do those jobs.
Who do you think the people are who are on benefits?
Pardon?
Who are the people who you're talking about on benefits?
The thousands of people, millions of people that I heard that is on benefit, I heard it on your news. They need to get off, get a job, go into education.
The majority of people on universal credit are working. So you want them to get off benefits and get a job, but they actually have a job at the minute.
Make themselves more productive and stop feeling sorry for themselves. Look at the hospital.
Do you think
the hospital is short of staff.
Yeah. What do you need to be a doctor? What do you need to be a nurse? You need a qualification. And not everyone has that qualification. That's why the NHS has relied on people from abroad for so long. Because they can put out a request for nurses and they can bring them in from abroad. They're trained up already. They don't have to wait for people to be trained up over years in the UK.
Do you think there are...
Why is it that... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, don't you think there are rather a lot of people who are on benefits, things like universal credit, for all sorts of reasons, and not because they don't want to work, often because they can't work, often because they're doing jobs like caring.
Okay, can I just say, if you're on the universal benefit because you cannot work, I do understand. But I've seen people that they can work and yet they're still on benefit. They're comfortable on benefit. They have more children, still on the benefit, and it's like a cycle.
And do you know these people?
They tend to... Pardon?
Do you know these people?
I've seen them. I don't want to say I've seen them. I've worked with them.
What? Her entire argument has just collapsed here. I've worked with them. So you're working with people who are on benefits. So did you ever ask yourself, wait a minute, if these people are on benefits and they're working, there are two possible outcomes here. They're either working illegally and they're gaming the system, or maybe they're on universal credit because the money they're receiving from working is not enough to survive. Once again, what goes through these people's minds when they actually call these radio stations? Do they actually understand reality? Do they actually just put down the Express or the Daily Mail or the Sun for a moment and actually go online and try and research something about universal credit? Go to the Universal Credit website and find out about how people can apply, what are the conditions, can you work and also claim universal credit, what are the benefits people are receiving, and can people actually survive on these benefits? Okay, just ignore for a moment the exceptions and look at the rule, look at the reality. And then perhaps then you can decide whether you think it's a good idea for people. No, I'm not even going to respond to that. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.